Krishna. Hopefully we're coming through on our system. I'm just checking. Yes, I think it's coming through. It's gone live. Yeah. So, good morning again. This morning we're going to be speaking from the second chapter, Bhagavad-gita, text number 9. Text number 9. And I was looking at quite a few of the verses. I was supposed to do some exercises before this, but I get kind of drawn into seeing what we should speak about this morning. And I think we talked about freedom from all something, freedom from sometime what the title was. Can't find it. And I'm going to move that around. You could say freedom from all. Gee, what was the word? You know better than me now because you'll be looking at it and I can't see it right now. Where were we? So solving the real problems of life is pretty much what we're faced with in this second chapter. Arjuna's lamenting, and he's really faced with a problem. And sometimes we feel that we're faced with problems and they're insurmountable. We become overwhelmed by these problems. And fortunately, we're hearing how if one takes shelter of Krishna or his bona fide representative, the bona fide spiritual master, then one can get freedom from the difficulty, the perplexities that Srila Prabhupada talks about, the perplexities of material life. Pardon me. Let me just check one other thing. I think it's funny. This won't come down. It's very that's it. Okay, that's better. Sorry, that's better. Now I can see what's happening on the screen. Yeah, such is the life of technology. So yes, we're talking about today solving the real problems of life and how we're very much in a situation similar to Arjuna. Arjuna's challenge was really in your face, you could say. It was really not easy. And we've heard so many texts so far, verses that are bringing us to this point. Arjuna's just given up his what would you say, his own way of trying to fix the problem that he's facing, and he says, I can't do it. I think that was in text 8, is it? Yes. He's in text 7. He said, now I'm confused about my duty. I've lost all composure due to weakness. In this condition, I'm asking you to tell me. So he's taken a good turn. That's often a big thing for us, is that we have to make a decision, and we find that we're there. Prakrite kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasa ahankara vimudatma, the foolish person. We consider ourselves to be the doer of everything. And in a similar way, Arjuna is thinking it's all up to me. This battle is here. It's all about what I'm going to do, and I'm expected to act in a certain way. But he's finding all kinds of reasons as to why he shouldn't act in that specific way. And he's speaking very learned words, Krishna's explaining, but he's confused. He's very confused, and he's tried again and again to get over this. What can I do? What can I do? And he says, now in this confused condition, because I've lost my composure, it's a weakness. He's got a sense there's a weakness here. I don't have my usual strength. I don't have my clarity. And he's in this condition. I'm asking you to tell me clearly what is best for me, Krishna. Now I am your disciple and a soul surrendered. So he's made a great determination. He's turned the corner, so to speak. And now I'm going to surrender to you. Please instruct me. So that's in text 7. And he's just adding a little bit. He's saying, I can't find any means to drive away this grief, which is drying up my senses. I will not be able to destroy this grief. I've been thinking about it, talking about it, and experiencing it. And even if I win an unrivaled kingdom on the earth, with sovereignty like the demigods in heaven. So he says, there's just no way I can drive this away, even if I win this kingdom, and if it's the kingdom that is on the earth, and I've got the sovereignty like the demigods in heaven. So there's just no way. I don't want to be involved in this. I don't see a good outcome. And even if I win and have a wonderful situation, I won't be satisfied. So he doesn't know what to do. So he approaches Krishna. And we will read today's text number 9, which continues this dilemma of Arjuna. So, text number 9. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Sanjaya Vacha Evam Uktva Rishikesham Godakesha Parantapaha Nayochya iti Govindam Uktva Tushnim Babhovaha. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. Sanjaya said, having spoken thus, Arjuna, chastiser of enemies, told Krishna, Govinda, I shall not fight, and fell silent. Srila Prabhupada's purport. Dhritarashtra must have been very glad to understand that Arjuna was not going to fight and was instead leaving the battlefield for the begging profession. I couldn't help sort of there's little humor in one sense I felt from Srila Prabhupada coming through here, that Dhritarashtra would be very glad Arjuna was not going to fight. Instead, he was going to leave the battlefield for the begging profession. And from Dhritarashtra's point of view, you'd be thinking, wow, this is really, I wasn't thinking this was going to happen. Now he's happy. But Prabhupada continues, Sanjaya disappointed him again in relating that Arjuna was competent to kill his enemies, Parantapaha. He calls them Parantapaha. Although Arjuna was for the time being overwhelmed with false grief due to family affection, he surrendered unto Krishna, the supreme spiritual master, as a disciple. This indicated that he would soon be free from the false lamentation resulting from family affection and would be enlightened with perfect knowledge of self-realization or Krishna consciousness, and would then surely fight. Thus, Dhritarashtra's joy would be frustrated, since Arjuna would be enlightened by Krishna. It's interesting, there's a full stop after enlightened on my book, but never mind. Since Arjuna would be enlightened by Krishna and would fight to the end. So it's very interesting how Srila Prabhupada has mentioned this. Om Ganati Marandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chakshuran Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Grave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, and my spiritual master is forcing me to open my eyes with the torchlight of transcendental knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto his lotus feet. So Srila Prabhupada is showing how fickle the world is. 1 minute it's happy, something is a source of happiness, and the next minute it's a source of frustration or anguish or suffering, etc. Dhritarashtra's joy would be frustrated, since Arjuna would be enlightened, and then after being enlightened by Krishna, he would fight to the end, Srila Prabhupada's saying. So this is the nature of the material world. We'll hear in a few verses, Matra Sparshas Kunteya Toshna Sukha Dukha Da Agama Painu Nityastam Statiksha Shasva Bharata. There's a very elementary verse of Bhagavad-gita, but it's why we learn that verse right at the beginning of our devotional life, because it says a lot. It says that this happiness that we seek so much is very much accompanied by distress, and it appears and disappears like winter and summer seasons. Now, I don't know if you've noticed that, but yes, it's now winter and it comes and goes. The sun comes through and you think, oh, this isn't too bad. Then they're cold. So this is the nature of the material world, that dukkha and sukha, the winter and summer seasons, the heat and the cold, the happiness and the distress. So it's very fleeting. This is the nature of the material world. We all want Lakshmi, or opulence, but Lakshmi is described to be chanchala, or flickering. She doesn't stay long, apart from on the chest of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or at the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. She's always with the Lord. So this nature of the material world is very much highlighted in this section of the Bhagavad-gita. So Arjuna's over it. He says, I shall not fight. He told Krishna. He doesn't see any good of the whole thing. So the title that I sort of updated to Solving the Real Problems of Life. So what it's said that those who are devoid of Atma Tattva, or knowledge of the self, never inquire into the real problems of life, being surrounded by fallible soldiers, Sine Shu, the different soldiers. So we are surrounded by the soldiers, and they are described in Srimad Bhagavatam as Kalapatra De. What is that? Kalapacha? Kalatradishu. Kalapatra. Forgot the Sanskrit. Kala is the body. Patya is the children. Patya, Kalatradi. Kalatra is the wife or husband, if you want, male, female, it doesn't matter. And they described the body as a fallible soldier. The body itself appears very stout and strong, but it becomes very fallible. The children that can offer some kind of solace and some kind of protection, they're only able to offer a certain amount according to their position. They can't offer so much protection. So they're called fallible soldiers. They may be soldiers, and that's good. It's good to use your body to protect yourself and to continue in life. It's good to have dutiful children that want to protect you in your old age or in any situation that you may find yourself in. And to have a wife or a husband is certainly desirable for most persons in this world. Very seldom is one able to be a naistika brahmachari. So one is surrounded by these different, the body, wife, children, friends, society, all of the aspects of material world, but they're described as fallible soldiers. Because what? Those verse goes on to explain that the persons who are devoid of this knowledge of spiritual life, being devoid of Atma Tattva, surround themselves in this way and think themselves to be secure in this world. So this is a great, a great problem to think in that way. And they don't see, although sufficiently experienced, Bhagavatam says, they don't see their inevitable destruction. Yet the body is very important, but it's fallible. It's inevitably going to be destroyed. And your connection and relationship with all the things of this world will be finished. We all know this is how we're so sufficiently experienced. Everyone says we come into the world with nothing and we leave with nothing. But in between, for that short period of time, we determine to gain and grab everything we can possibly get a hold of. So it's natural to want to do that, but it's not very intelligent, because everything that we grab hold of will be taken away, and will be a source of possibly pleasure for some time, and then it will be a source of misery. So this seems as though we're missing something. And that's what's the position of conditioned life. We miss the point. And that the answer to our problem doesn't lie in a prolonged duration of life. Bhagavatam again says, Kim pramatasya bahubir parokshai hayanariha varam mahurtam viritam gatate shreyasayata. What is the value of a prolonged duration of life, which is wasted in experience by years in this world? Better a moment's full consciousness. Why? Because that can give one a start in searching after your supreme interest. Wow, that it introduces another dimension into our existence. What is the value of a prolonged duration of life? We want to prolong our life. No one would reject such a thing. You'd pay millions of gold coins if you can prolong. If you're faced with the imminent death and the doctor says, "Look, I'm sorry, I know you're only 45, but you have a terminal illness, and it's guaranteed you're going to die in the next 2 or 3 weeks." But we've invented something that can prolong the duration of life for another 5 years. But it costs $3 million, and you happen to only have $3.5 million. What do you think? You'll pay the $3 million because the prolonged life is very dear, and it's essential because we're sentient living beings. We don't die, but we can't understand the position of the matrix. We'll use that word. The matrix that we're in dictates to us in so many different ways that we become bewildered by the whole show of the material energy, and we don't often, or we seldom connect to this higher dimension, which is the spiritual dimension. So we think, if I can prolong the duration of my life, if I can surround myself with different soldiers that will protect me, my body, if I make it strong, so that's there very much. If I make it strong and healthy, you can eat this diet, you can do this kind of workout, you can make arrangements to protect yourself from, you know what, from the demise of the body. So, and some kinds of, another one I listed here in a little note I have is material gain or adjustment. So we've got the soldiers surrounding us, and it goes out from there. As the body, the wife and children, family, friends, community, society, nationality. We surround ourselves in this way, but we don't see our inevitable destruction. And we think also, if I can get some material gain, or I can make, and with material gain, I can make adjustments. Then by continually adjusting my situation, my life situation, then I will be able to protect myself. So the Bhagavatam describes that this is very valiant. It's a very heroic mood. And the conditioned living being is actually an amazing hero. But he becomes, guess what? A dead hero. He's destroyed, inevitable destruction. So even great leaders of the world, Prabhupada mentions that in these verses, he explains that even the great emperors, even the great dictators, even the great leaders of man, inevitably are beaten down by the material nature. So they don't see this. It's a great, it's really unfortunate. So it's encouraged that even a small part of our existence can be introduced to this higher position, and that means transcendence. So Krishna is introducing this. He's going to introduce it to Arjuna, or should we say reintroduce this idea that if we become conscious of the higher aspect of life, and that is the system that we function in the Krishna consciousness movement, in Vedic culture, in the Vedanta Shastras, they're all explaining this higher aspect of existence, which is the spiritual aspect. Krishna says, Bhumirapo nalo vayu kamano bhutirevacha, that this separated material energy consisting of the earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, false ego, that is my separated material energy. So it's a different energy. It's categorically different from the self, the actual jivatma. And Krishna goes on to say in this wonderful Bhagavad-gita, apariyam itastanyam, There is a superior nature of mind, which are the living entities who are struggling hard in sustaining this universe due to their desire to lord it over material nature. Krishna has made this arrangement for us. Just like a father or a parent, a mother, parents, they will make arrangement to fulfill the desires of the child. And sometimes they make arrangements, they always make them so that they'll be safe. So we think, I was going to say people think this, but all of us from time to time, we think like that. We think, why did Krishna make it so difficult? Why is it so hard? The answer, he didn't make it difficult. He said, you can go if you really, you want to do this. So, okay, I'll make some arrangement. You go to the material world, you play around, and you'll see very quickly that it's not your position actually to be the separate enjoyer, the independent enjoyer. And you'll find that out. So then when you finish, come back and we'll forget all that. We'll wrap those material toys up and put them back in the Mahatattva, and you can come back home, back to Godhead. But there are some rebellious souls that don't do that. And we hear this, and we have to repeatedly hear this, that the Satya Yuga is there, and there's virtue and great qualities, the qualities of the mode of goodness, and there's very little ignorance and passion. And people would meditate for thousands of years, perform great austerities, and would live a regulated life and see that maybe this is not such a great place, the material world. And they would engage in various activities to elevate themselves again so that they could return home back to Godhead. Then some who were a bit more rebellious stayed around for the Treta Yuga. Those who, out of those that didn't get it together then, there's some that continued on into the Dwapara Yuga and then the Kali Yuga. Now the Kali Yuga is described as the Iron Age. Manda Samanda Madhya, Manda Bhagya Upadrita. The persons of this age are quarrelsome, they're lazy, they're misguided, they're unlucky, and always disturbed by the threefold miseries of life. Now, that means it comes to us and we see our actual position is that we're really quite fallen. We've been here. It's like sometimes you might have a herbal tea, or some people, the dregs, they talk about the dregs of a cup, whether it's herbal tea or what, it's just an example. So there, at the bottom of the cup, there'll be some tea leaves or there'll be some coffee residue. So we're like the residue at the bottom of the cup. Anyone with any sense has got it together, and the stubborn ones are still swimming around at the bottom of the cup. So that's the Kali Yugaites. It's happening on a massive scale. So again, it's maybe a little tricky for us to capture this, but that's actually the position. So the answer is to, and we've just heard, is to take guidance. And Arjuna's come to that position. He's given wonderful arguments as to why he shouldn't fight, why this shouldn't be like this, and why it shouldn't be like that. And I was speaking to someone that I mentor at various times. They had contacted me and they were expressing, and I thought, wow, we all very much, they were expressing their feelings, their experience, their frustration. And I was thinking, well, isn't that all of us? That we can't, even as devotees, Srila Prabhupada pointed out that we tend to want a utopian position. We think, oh, now I've taken shelter of Krishna consciousness. I've experienced all this frustration in material life, but now I'll have this utopian position as a devotee. There'll be a perfect community. There will be perfect arrangements for me to be fully engaged in a nice way with devotees that I really get on well with, and we'll feel a progressive mood. And it's absolutely desirable, and it can be experienced in different ways at different times and different circumstances. But Srila Prabhupada pointed out we should not expect utopia. And that's the, I think many of us have that have that experience, that when you first go to the temple, or you think everyone's a pure devotee. I remember that back in the days when we first went to the temple. It seems they're just all so Krishna conscious, and we see like that. But then when we become familiar, gradually over a period of time, we see, oh, they've actually got a few faults too, possibly. And the problem is then you can focus too much on the faults, and then we make offense, and then we have to, yeah, it goes on from there. So this idea of utopia is not to be expected. So we'll see this, that as we look at the Shastras, we'll hear all these activities, the pastimes of the Lord, and interaction with his various devotees, and we'll find that they're faced with challenges and difficulties. And the famous verse, Tatenu kampam susamikshamanam bunjan evatma kritam vapakam Ridvagva purvir vididham namaste jiveta yo mukti sade sadaya bhak. This is the famous verse that the serious, the what's the word of first, a serious person, I'm trying to remember how the English unfolds. Basically, I can't remember exactly word for word, but the person who continues, despite experiencing the reactions, he sees the reversals. Yeah, a sincere person who sees the reversals in life to be due to his own past misdeeds, and continues with great determination and enthusiasm to serve the Lord, becomes eligible for liberation. So if we can see in that way that whatever reversals are coming to me, they're coming due to my past misdeeds, and we continue to serve the Lord with our mind, words, and body, then in that way we show our dependence on Krishna. We show that we are actually able to understand that we're here in this material world due to our own choice, due to our misdeeds. We are suffering the reactions, and we want to become freed from the reactions to our past misdeeds. That's the suffering that we experience. And the only way to do that is to take shelter of Krishna. That's what Krishna says. If you surrender to me, sarvadhamam parityaga mamikam saranam raja aham tvam savi papibhyo mokshayasyami mahasajaha. Abandon all varieties of activity and dharma, duties, religious, and so on, and surrender, and I can deliver you from all sinful reaction. So that, again, is being shown by Arjuna in this situation. He's tried, he's thinking so many ways, but he comes to the point where he says, no, I can't deal with this. I can't see, whatever way I go, it's not going to work out right. And again, bringing it back to ourselves, we may be faced with that. I know people are experiencing that, even I shouldn't say even myself included. It's a very awkward time right now. The last couple of years has been absolutely chaotic. It's turned things upside down, inside out, and sometimes it's hard to know how to go forward. Some devotees are fixed in their service. Some are thinking, maybe I should move to the country and live a simple life in the country, because the cities are not going to be very good in the future, and people are coming and going and up and down. We've know, as everyone will know, there's different devotees trying to find some properties. So it's a difficult time, a time of uncertainty. But then again, I was thinking about that, though. That's the nature of the material world. We think it's natural for it to be predictable and dependable and secure and safe, but it's not. That's not the material. The material world is exactly the opposite. Padam padam yadvi padam natesham. It's the place where there's danger at every step, and it's our illusion that we think, yes, we should all be happy, and we should all do this, and tralala and triddly-dee, and Krishna consciousness certainly has to be like that. Srila Prabhupada said, Krishna consciousness and an easy life go ill together. It's not meant for that. It's meant for self actualization, and that can be actualized through voluntarily accepting some inconvenience, seeing that whatever inconvenience comes is actually due to my past misdeeds, it's a reaction to my past misdeeds, and going on in this way and accepting. Um, and we see that throughout history. If we look at the history of Vaishnavism, we look at the history of the world, there's always upheaval. Different deities had to be taken from the temples. Aurangzeb was invading Brindavan. They were taken, the deities were taken to Jaipur, or they're hidden somewhere. Madhavendra Puri is taking Krishna from a bush. He's there, he's been placed there. Now it's time he wants to have his own temple. So we should, all of us should see that this is the actual nature of the material world. It is always going to be a challenge. So what to do? Yeah, the answer: take shelter of Krishna. Oh, it's that. Yeah, okay. I heard that before. And guess what? You're going to have to hear it again and again and again. And what else you're going to have to hear? The menu in Krishna consciousness there's this wonderful preparation. It's called pie, and it's got humble at the front of it. It's called humble pie. And you think, well, I heard that philosophy before. Now I'm hearing this again, that you've got to be humble. And I did that last month or last year, but guess what's on the menu again? It's humble pie. It's humble pie, and it's Tapodivyam Putrakayet, said Lord Rishabhadev said to his sons, my dear boys, this human form of life is not meant simply for sense gratification. It's okay, you'll get a bit of sense gratification. It's going to come of its own accord, and you're going to get dukkha as well. You're going to get the miseries. That's okay. Don't worry about that. It's going to come. It's going to go. The happiness and distress, as we discussed earlier, it's going to come and go. But the real business is to perform tapasya. Tapodivyam putraka yena sattvam sudyedyasma yasman brahmasokya tvanantam. What we're searching for is not material so-called happiness. That's not what we're looking for. What we're actually looking for is spiritual happiness, which is eternal. It doesn't stop. It continues forever. That's what we were actually searching for. Lord Rishabhadev says, here it is. Here's how you get it. You perform some tapasya. So that is tapasya. Tapasya is there. And in this age, the good news is that it's very simple. The tapasya is to utilize the tongue to only eat Krishna prasadam and to vibrate the sound vibration instead of, as Prabhupada would say, kakakak, kakakak, the frog talking so many words. We learned how to control the tongue and only speak about Krishna, Krishna's pastimes, Krishna's devotees, chant Hare Krishna. We're learning to perform these simple tapasyas in this age. And Srila Prabhupada wanted us to live simply. He said there's no need for so many furnitures and big beds and arrangements and so on. Again, not to imitate. We're not trying to imitate. That will only cause us grief, because we cannot imitate the great persons, but we can follow in their footsteps. And that is also different for different people. So we hear that the Goswamis were only eating maybe a little buttermilk every second day. They're hardly sleeping, maybe not sleeping at all. So we think, oh, I should imitate that. No. We hear from Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, we hear that one man will be able to eat 10 chapatis, someone will eat 1 or 2 chapatis and be satisfied. So if we superimpose that everyone has to eat 1 chapati, guess what? It will not stick. We can't imitate. But the principle is there. So Arjuna is a perfect example for us. Krishna has made the arrangement that he's bewildered by his situation, his life situation. Put your hand up if you have never been bewildered by your life situation. Yeah, not too many hands go up, because we get bewildered. And guess what? It's going to happen, because that's the nature of the world. So the answer is not to just work a bit harder, surround yourself with a bit more sense gratification. That will help. No. Surround yourself with family members and society, and extend it out and out. Look for a utopian situation. No. So what the answer is, The answer is to come to this platform of transcendence where we see, and we mentioned this last week, the big picture. It's when we get sucked into the small vision of things that we really suffer. This situation isn't fair, or this situation doesn't serve me. We get sort of narrow in our consciousness, and then we get just like Arjuna. He's focused so much on this family, fratricidal family war, and seeing all the details of it, using his good intelligence to look at it very carefully. He says, "No, I can't do this. This is crazy," because he's focused on it. And he's used all his good focus to see it, and he says, "I want to walk away from it." But then Krishna says, oh, he lets him deal with it. Then when he surrenders, we're going to hear Krishna instructing him to bring him out of that narrow focus and let him reconnect to his actual position as a part and parcel servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's a new perspective. When we take that perspective, it makes sense. Everything makes sense. Whether it's happiness or distress, whether it's a good situation that we're in right now, or it's not such a good situation. Now, that's a very interesting meditation. It will make sense as if we connect to Krishna consciousness. When we're in that transcendent position of being connected, it will all make sense, whether it's good, awkward, whether it's good or bad, awkward or very pleasant or situation. It can all make sense. That's the power of transcendence. When we're on a higher platform, just like, for example, we can't perceive, a person in the mode of ignorance can't perceive the higher level of passion. If a passionate man, he says, "Look, don't stop lying there under the park bench or wherever you are in the doorway, drinking some methylated spirits or whatever he's doing, intoxication. Come, jump in the car, let's go, and we'll get you a job, and we'll get you." He's like, "Forget it. No way. I'm not interested." What do you mean? He can't get it. He can't understand that there's a higher level than the one he's on. The man in passion, if he's spoken to by someone in goodness, he can't understand. So why are you running around so much? You're chasing your tail this way. You're frustrated. You have stress, high blood pressure. You have a heart problem, etc., etc. And he's not interested in the mode of goodness. What do you mean you were just going to sit in the country? Or what are we? Oh, I got to be active. I got to be passionate. So this is the way the three modes of material nature bewilder the living entity, and he can't see until he connects. That is the idea of reconnection. We plug into this spiritual energy by the mercy of the bona fide spiritual masters, the great acharyas, by the mercy of Krishna. We come in contact. Brahmanda Brahmate Kuna Bhagavana Jeev Guru Krishna Prasad Pai Bhakti Lata Bija. The living entities are scattered all throughout the universe. And one fortunate soul, if we are able to connect to that great soul who's acting on behalf of the Supreme Lord and can give us the seed of bhakti, that seed that can take root and then grow and then flourish and bring us to this platform of transcendence where we can see clearly the answer is not in the mode of ignorance, it's not in the mode of passion. The answer is not in the mode of goodness here in the material world, up and down in this world, and going to higher planets, performing Vedic rites. This goes up and down. Trigunya Vishaya Veda Nistrigunya Bhavarjuna. Krishna says in the second chapter that the Vedas deal mainly with the three modes of material nature. They're about how to live in this world in a successful way, a way to not cause difficulty to others, and so on and so forth. But we should rise above the modes of material nature and be established in the self. Give up all desires for gain and safety in this world and be established in the self. And it's not that long. We think, oh, a whole lifetime. A lifetime goes. It goes so quickly. and we can talk about it as we get older. It becomes, you see how quick it happens, and it won't be long before it's all over. This thing, and what a wonderful opportunity that it can be all over for good. And when we say for good, we mean for good. It means for all time and for all good purposes. You can go back home, back to Godhead. What a wonderful opportunity uh, offered to us by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So this is the way to solve the real problems of life. And Arjuna has taken shelter in that way. And we have to do this repeatedly. I've just written a little note to myself here. We must come to and remain fixed on the platform. So this is the platform of Nishta, you could say. We go ado Shraddha, we have a little faith, then we associate Sadhu Sangha, then Bhajana Kriya, we take up the process due to that. We think, I would like to be like that, to be transcendental to the modes of nature. And we see the sadhus, and we think, I want that. So then you associate, you take up the process, bhajan, you just begin chanting, and then anartana vritti, and I've mentioned this so many times recently, please forgive me if you've heard it too many times, but it's something I think you can hear again and again. And anartana vritti is not the platform of devotional service, not the real platform. It's the beginning. It's the beginning. But then we have to come to firm faith. So the initial faith is there. We take up the process with faith. We continue to deepen the faith. And we, with great faith, hear how to overcome the anarthas, the unnecessary things in our life. And then we continue, and the faith becomes fixed. And that is nishta. And in nishta, we have ruchi and ashakti, attachment. We begin to relish very much that firm fixedness in Krishna consciousness, and then we get attachment, become very attached, and then we can continue on from there. So it says in the Srimad Bhagavatam, I think it's 325, 325, it says that Shraddha, that process is there. How does it begin? It begins from Shraddha Ratir. That's the end of the verse. Anyway, English is fine. It says that when it comes to that, then real devotion, one gradually advances on the path of liberation. Thereafter, he becomes freed from the anarthas, and his attraction becomes fixed. So and then real devotion and devotional service begin. So this is the whole program. It's chalked out. So we should not become despondent when we're faced with overwhelming challenges, but we should continue. And that also is explained by Krishna in the 11th canto, chapter 20, text 27 and 20. Jata Shraddha Matkatashu Nirvina Sarvakarmishu Veda Dukatmakam Kamam Parityagepya Nishvaraha Tato Bhajeta Mam Pritaha Shraddhalur Drita Nishchaya Jusamanas Cha Tankaman Dukadarkams Cha Garhayan. So Krishna explains this process, that we may be overwhelmed at the stage of anartana vritti, but don't mind. You've already awakened your attraction for Krishna consciousness, and hearing the glories of the Lord. We're disgusted with this material world. We see that all sense gratification leads to a miserable result, but we may not have the ability, the strength to overcome all attraction for sense gratification, and sometimes we may succumb to those attractions due to our conditioning. But Krishna says, Tato bhajeta mam pritaha, that my devotee should remain happy. He should be a little remorseful. That's very, very important. Krishna says that at the end. He says, Dukadarkams cha garhayan. Garhayan means that he should be a little remorseful, not neurotic, not guilt-ridden, but seeing this is not, I don't want to keep going back to this these anarthas. So I really would like to be Krishna conscious. So Krishna says, remain happy, continue the process, dust yourself off, get on board, and get back into it. And that will be the case. So we're going to find ourselves, just like Arjuna, overwhelmed with this situation. And guess what? In 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, or whatever, there will be so many challenges in life. But if we keep taking shelter at Krishna's lotus feet, we keep hearing, because that's the nature of the world. It's a dark world. And unless the light of Krishna is there shining, we will be affected by darkness. It's as simple as that. So that is the only way. Tivrena bhakti yogena manomaya arpitam stiram. Krishna, it's explained that the only way is full absorption. And Rupa Goswami, the essence of all advice, he says that we have to keep the light on 24 hours a day by nicely hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord, following in the footsteps of the Lord's eternal beloved devotees. That is the essence of all advice, that one should utilize one's full time, 24 hours a day, in nicely hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord. Living in a holy place, making our home a holy place. So I'm going to conclude there. I may have gone, yeah, it's not too bad. If anyone has any comments, again, forgive me, I didn't mention it at the beginning, but if you do have, I'll just wait for a few seconds. If you have any question or any reflection, preferably actually, but questions okay too. I think it was Vaisheshika Prabhu says, he said, a question means I've got to come up with an answer. So that's whatever. But reflections are good. It helps to broaden, so we get other perspectives and nuances on the subject matter. So if there's anything that you would like to reflect, please put it in the chat box there, and I'll see if I can see if there's something there. Nice. Satam prasangam mama virya samvido. Amiyatma Prabhu, thank you. Satam prasangam mama virya samvido bhavanti rit karna rasayana kata tachjoshanat asua pavargavatmani shraddha ratir bhakti ranukramishiti. Shraddha, that initial faith, shraddha, ratir, one gets that taste, or shraddha, ratir, shraddha. So we come to firm faith by that, in the association of pure devotees, hearing of the transcendental topics and wonderful pastimes of the personality of Godhead. They're very pleasing, the verse says, to the ear, and very satisfying to the heart. Gradually, by the cultivation of that knowledge, one gradually advances on the path of liberation and becomes freed. Makes sense? You hear, you take up the process, you keep working on that, and gradually you become free. Then one's attraction becomes fixed. And then real devotion. And that's what we hanker for. We actually hanker for this stage. So it's not to be imitated, and we've not to get proud if somehow or other one or two of our anarthas drop away to some degree. Think, oh yes, I'm real cool now. And guess what? You just picked up the old anartha. That was the one about the humble pie earlier on. We get proud of anything. A pauper is proud of his penny, is an old saying in English. Even a pauper is, in the Kali Yuga, is proud of his penny. So as soon as we get any qualification, we end up getting disqualified pretty quickly. So we have to be careful for that. So thanks for sharing that, Amiyatma Prabhu, Satam Prasangam. And Buri Bhoja's put something up. Thank you, Buri Bhoja Prabhu. Stay on track and remember Krishna always. Thank you. So stay on track. And what do you do if you get off track? You climb back on, because that's how people have become perfect since time immemorial. People have been doing, engaging in this process, and everyone begins from the very beginning. Every child has to fall on its face. Every child has to get up and learn to walk, and every devotee will be faced with the anarthas that we've been dragging around for so many lifetimes. And you think you're doing real good, and then something happens. You have a conflict with some other devotee, or somebody disappoints you, or something frustrates you, or something. It goes on and on. But when that happens, then you have to become, as Bhagavad is saying, stay on track and remember Krishna always. And how to do that? Again, I'll just quote Vaisheshika Prabhu. He has lots of wonderful quotes to get from Vaisheshika, really wonderful devotee. And what was it? He always, how do you stay on track and remember Krishna always? Drag yourself, push yourself, do whatever it takes to get in front of transcendental sound vibration. Go on Harinam, go to the temple, open up that book, listen to this katha, listen to this class, find someone that inspires you. Just get yourself in front of transcendental sound vibration. Because guess what? If you don't, you're going to be in front of mundane sound vibration. And guess what the effect will be is that you'll get off track. It will get a bit dark. It'll get cloudy. Like that. So yes, thank you. Oops. And I'm sorry, I'm not great at that. Okay. I'll just check. Okay, I thank you very much, Beverly. It's really nice to see that you're there and getting yourself in front of this transcendental sound vibration in the form of Krishna's Bhagavad-gita, and should we say Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad-gita, like that. And thank you to everyone else. Okay, Krishna bless. I will look forward to seeing you all whenever I see you. And if it's not before or after, we'll see you next week at the same time. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koda Vaishnava Brinda ki jai, Gaur Premanandi. Hare Krishna. Now I've got to figure out how to disconnect this. Here we go.